Welcome to section 6.3. In this video, we're going to continue solving linear equations. However, in this video, we're going to have 2 steps rather than 1. So, whenever we have more than 1 step, the first thing you want to do is look at the operation that is the most far away from the variable. And then once you do that, you're going to slowly work your way closer back to the variable. So once we get through a couple of problems, that'll begin to make a little bit more sense. So looking at example 1, we have 4x minus 3 equals 1. So to begin solving for x, what we want to do is find whatever operation on this side of the equation that x is on. We have to find out which operation that we should do first. And if you look at it, this minus 3 or this negative 3, this 3, or I guess you could think of it as like here, this 3 is further away than this 4 is from the x. So if you think about it like that, because this 3 is further away, we're going to add that 3 first to both sides of the equation. So these 3's cancel. You're going to get 4x equals 1 plus 3, which is 4. And then from here, to solve for x, since 4 is being multiplied by x, we're going to want to divide by 4 to cancel out these 4's. And then we get x equals 4 divided by 4 is 1. That is our answer. And that makes sense, right? Because if you think about it, if we plug in x for 1, we get 4 times 1 minus 3 equals 1. So 4 times 1 is 4 minus 3 equals 1, and 4 minus 3 is 1. So this makes sense, right? So looking at example 2, we have 10x minus 7 equals 4. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to add 7 to both sides because 7 is further away from this x value. The 7 here is further away than this 10 is because this 10 is directly attached to this x. So we're going to add 7 to both sides. Those 7's cancel out, and we're left with 10x equals 4 plus 7, which is 11. And then to get this x on its own, we're going to divide by 10 because the 10 is being multiplied by x. So we get x equals 11 over 10. And then looking at example 3, we have 2x plus 5 equals negative 5. So to get x on its own, we're going to subtract by 5 to get those 5's to go away first. So these 5's cancel, and we're left with 2x equals negative 5 minus 5 is negative 10. And then to get x on its own here, we're going to divide by 2 because it's being multiplied. So you get x equals negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. And then looking at example 4, we have negative x plus 4 equals negative 36. So if we think about it, this negative x here, we can think about it as like a negative 1 times x, because that's the same thing as negative x. So our first step then would be to subtract 4 on both sides of the equation. So these 4's cancel, and you're left with negative 1x equals negative 36 minus 4 is negative 40. And then to get the x all on its own, because we still have this x being multiplied by this negative, we're going to divide by negative 1. So these negatives cancel, and we're just left with x. And then negative 40 divided by negative 1 becomes a positive 40 because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. And then looking at example 5, we have 8 minus x equals 42. So the first thing I would do is to subtract 8 by both sides. So these 8's cancel. We're left with a negative x equals, and then 42 minus 8 is 34. And then we're going to want to divide this x by negative 1 to cancel out these negatives. So you get x equals negative 34. And then looking at example 6, we have negative 4x plus 6 equals 0. To solve for x, we're going to subtract 6 on both sides. So these 6's cancel. We get negative 4x equals negative 6. And if we divide by negative 4, these 4's cancel. And then we get x equals negative 6 divided by negative 4. And then because we're dividing two negatives, this becomes a positive. And then we can also reduce the fraction and divide by 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. And 4 divided by 2 is 2. So we get x equals 3/2. Looking at example 7, we have negative 16x plus 8 equals negative 4. So to solve for x, you're going to subtract 8 on both sides. So we get negative 16x equals negative 4 minus 8 is negative 12. And then to get x all by itself here, we're going to divide by negative 16. So you get x equals 12 divided by 16 isn't a whole number, but we know two negatives. When we divide two negatives, we get a positive. So you get positive 12 over 16. And then we can reduce this fraction by dividing both the numerator and denominator by 4. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. And then 16 divided by 4 is 4. So our final answer is 3/4. Looking at example 8, we have 54 equals 3 minus 7x. So to solve for x here, because this x is way out here and this 3 is way over here, I'm going to subtract this 3 to get this 3 to cancel. And then we have 54 minus 3, which is 51. And we're left with negative 7x. And then here, we're going to divide by negative 7 to get the x on its own. And 51 divided by negative 7, unfortunately, is not a whole number. So we just get that x equals negative 51 over 7. And that's our final answer for this one. And then looking at example 9, the first thing I would do is to add 17 to both sides to get this negative 17 to cancel. This cancels out, and we're left with 7x equals, and then 17 plus 17 is 34. And then to get this x all on its own, we're going to divide by 7. So you get x equals 34 over 7. And then looking at these last couple examples, to solve for example 10, this one is going to change a little bit, but this process is still going to be the same. So the first things first is that I'm going to want to subtract 3 on both sides to get rid of this 3. So you get x over 4 equals, these 3's cancel, and then you get 2 minus 3, which is negative 1. And then to get rid of this fraction here, or to get x all on its own, I'm going to multiply both sides of this equation by 4. So these 4's cancel, and you're left with x equals -1 times 4 is -4. And that is your answer. Looking at example 11, the process is the same, so we're just going to begin by adding 3 on both sides. These 3's cancel, and we're left with x over 7 equals 10 plus 3, which is 13. And then to get x on its own, we're going to multiply the equation by 7 to get these 7's to cancel. So you get x equals 13 times 7, which is 91. And then looking at example 12, the process is still the same, except for the equation is just flipped. So let's just start by subtracting 6 on both sides. So these 6's cancel, and we get 12 minus 6, which is 6. Set that equal to x over 3. And then to get x on its own, we're going to multiply both sides of the equation by 3. So you get 18 equals x, or x equals 18. Both of these say the same thing.